Let's start with something you probably don't want to admit. You have at some point in your life admired someone you knew was morally questionable. A politician, a celebrity, a ruthless CEO, maybe even a friend or family member. And not just admired, but followed. It wasn't their kindness that drew you in. It was their strength, their certainty, their ability to bend reality to their will. You told yourself you didn't like the corruption. You told yourself you hated their greed, but deep down, there was something intoxicating about their power. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This isn't just you, it's human nature. In 1887, Friedrich Nietzsche wrote about what he called the will to power, the deep, unconscious drive in human beings to impose our will on the world. We like to imagine we are motivated by justice, morality, compassion. But Nietzsche argued that beneath all of that lies a raw animalistic hunger, the desire to grow, to dominate, to overcome. When we see a leader who embodies this will to power, someone who doesn't flinch, doesn't doubt, doesn't bend to the rules, we feel something primal stir inside us. It's not the corruption we are drawn to, it's the strength. But here's the catch: corruption is often the price of that strength. History is full of examples. Julius Caesar, who seized control of Rome in defiance of the Senate. Napoleon, who crowned himself emperor in front of the Pope. Steve Jobs, known for both his genius and his cruelty. We don't just tolerate their flaws, we excuse them. We say, well, you have to break some eggs to make an omelet. But that's a dangerous bargain. The German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who stood against the Nazis, once said, "The ultimate test of a moral society is the kind of world it leaves to its children." But we rarely think in those terms when we're afraid. Fear changes our moral compass. Psychologists call this authoritarian submission, the tendency to surrender our independence to a powerful figure in exchange for safety. It's not always conscious. Sometimes we even convince ourselves we're making a rational choice. When the world feels chaotic, our brains crave certainty more than truth. We look for a figure who speaks with absolute conviction, someone who says, "I know the way, follow me," and the darker truth. We don't just want them to lead us, we want them to take responsibility for us. If they make the decisions, we can avoid the crushing burden of freedom. And in a twisted way, that feels like relief. Over 2,000 years ago, Plato warned about this exact phenomenon in the Republic. He called it the cycle of tyranny. According to Plato, democracies are always vulnerable to a certain kind of leader, the one who pretends to be of the people, but is really seeking absolute power. They rise in times of crisis, offering hope and protection. They speak to our pain, our anger, our sense of injustice, and little by little, they dismantle the very freedoms they promised to protect. By the time we realize what's happening, it's too late. We've given them our trust, and with it, our power. We like to believe that people who follow corrupt leaders are naive, ignorant, or brainwashed. But the truth is more complicated. Sometimes we choose not to see. Machiavelli in The Prince understood this perfectly. He wrote that it's better for a ruler to be feared than loved, because fear is a stronger motivator. But he also knew that people will forgive almost any crime if the ruler delivers results. If the corrupt leader makes the economy boom, we look away. If they win wars, we look away. If they make us feel proud again, we look away. Corruption becomes invisible, not because it's hidden, but because we stop caring. Here's the part that stings. Our tolerance for corrupt leaders says as much about us as it does about them. We like to think corruption is an external problem, a flaw in those people. But corruption survives because we have something to gain from it. It's a mirror we don't want to look into, because when we do, we might see our own compromises staring back at us. Have you ever lied to protect your reputation? Bent the rules to get ahead, looked away when something wrong benefited you? On a small scale, those are the same moral trade-offs that allow corruption to thrive on a large scale. Nietzsche would say, "Be careful when you fight monsters, lest you become one." Imagine a storm at sea. The waves are towering. The wind is screaming. You're in a small boat, terrified. Suddenly, you see a massive warship cut through the chaos, like it owns the ocean. Its captain doesn't flinch. His voice is steady. Do you care if he cheats at cards? Do you care if he's rude to his crew? In that moment, no. You just want him to take the wheel. This is the emotional gravity of strength. It pulls us in even when we know it comes with shadows. You känns this chillig, let's small amidst become place. There's another reason we cling to corrupt leaders. They make us feel less guilty about our own flaws. If the person at the top is breaking the rules, then maybe the rules aren't that important. If the leader lies, maybe our own lies don't matter as much. Corruption normalizes itself from the top down, and the higher the leader stands, the more their shadow covers us all. So, how do we resist? How do we break free from this ancient magnetic pull? First, we have to face the truth. We are not immune, we are not morally superior to those other people. Second, we must learn to value principle over personality. A leader's charisma, confidence, and competence are not enough. We must demand integrity, even when it's inconvenient, even when the world feels like it's on fire. And third, we must take back the burden of freedom. That means making our own choices, asking hard questions, and refusing to outsource our moral responsibility to anyone, no matter how powerful or inspiring they seem. Bonhoeffer wrote from a Nazi prison cell, "The test of the morality of a society is what it does for those who are in need. The most dangerous leaders are not the ones who openly threaten us. They're the ones who convince us. They're our saviors." But here's the hopeful part. The spell only works if we believe in it. The moment we stop craving the comfort of corrupt power, the moment we stop excusing what we know is wrong, that's the moment we become ungovernable in the best possible way. Power will always be seductive. Corruption will always whisper in our ear. But we can choose again and again to listen to something louder, our own conscience. And maybe that's the one kind of leader we've been waiting for all along. Not out there, but in here,